Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in. Dennis Fithian with you here on a special post-spring game podcast. Back from the big house, 17-0 Michigan. The blue team ends up with the victory in front of, in the end, what was estimated by the Michigan media relations staff of being 40,000 plus. And I have to take that one right here. I did make a post saying that it looked like 15,000 right before noon. That estimation was given to me by the Associated Press, who seemed like they were putting in the work. They were talking about, well, if you take this slice and there's 2,000, and then he's looking around at his piece of paper and he said 15,000. And I said, okay, well, I don't find that to be one of my great strengths, estimating crowds. So I just went with what the Associated Press's estimation was, and I put it in there. But as soon as I posted that, there were a number of people that said, "Oh, there's a lot more people than that." And then in the end, that was the crowd estimate, 40,000 strong. And what started out sprinkles around the big house, and I have to say, look, I was down there like outside around 11:15 to meet some folks over by the War Memorial Eagle inside the stadium in Maine, and there were some sprinkles, and then that continued up to about 11:20. I don't know what time, but by the end of the game, the sun was out, and there were a lot of smiles. Every spring game, it's fun. Michigan wins, and you should feel pretty good. It was the public debut of Bryce Underwood. Certainly going to get to that immediately. I think the takeaway for as long as, and I haven't been to all 30 spring games. I've watched for the last 30 years when they have been available on TV back in the day. Go to the spring game. I don't even know if there was TV for them. So it's been a little bit of a hit and miss, but you taking any grand super takeaways like, oh yeah, this for sure. And just by the nature of it being one practice, one spring game, mixing and matching the starters, that you're going to have you are going to have people overreacting. People have such an interest in Michigan football. It's so long, the end of August, till Michigan plays against New Mexico, and this is it. This was the chance you had to see them. And so I always take a step back. It's just fun seeing the players out there in their uniforms, and it's football. And I was sitting there, and I didn't pinch myself as I was watching the game. I said, hey, this is football. And football is fun, and they look like they were having a lot of fun out there. Now, when it came to Bryce Underwood, I wanted to see the precocious 17-year-old throwing the ball all over the place, and I was watching his every move, and even in warm-ups, little 10-yard outs, he was really rapid firing, and man, the ball was exploding out of his hands, but nice tight spiral, and he looked like he was putting everything right on the money. And then my experience of watching quarterbacks at all levels, college and pro, is that I'd never seen the quarterbacks, both Davis on one side and Underwood on the other, throw as many passes as they were warming up. It was just, so usually you have like 3 or 4 guys. It was just Underwood on one side and just Davis on the other. So you got to see a lot of throws from these guys. And Underwood in practice, you could see the zip with his passes and his stature. He didn't look like, I hate to break it to, I don't know, the people online or whatever that were hoping that he was going to have a big belly or something like that. He looked in great shape, and that's not a surprise. But that had been something for a couple of days that people were joking about online. Now, during the game, and it's going to be hard to live up to the hype of being Superman, and so you have to take, okay, you're watching Superman. This guy's supposed to be the greatest quarterback ever. He's on track to start as a barely turned 18-year-old come the opener And you're thinking, man, maybe he'll dazzle everyone and just make throws like this guy is the greatest thing ever. And even in the press box, I heard people saying, well, someone said there's a 50 to 75% chance that in 3 years he'll be the number one pick in the NFL draft. And people are like, not every number one, quarterback coming out is the number one player taken overall, but that's what this one person's projection was. And then somebody said, hey, I could see being a first rounder. So that's the kind of talk. And everybody knows, this was the first time, this was the public debut of Underwood. So all eyes were going to be on him. And, to me, he didn't wow you. Yeah, he's got a strong arm. You could see that, but he didn't make any dazzling throws. He didn't make any splash plays. And, that's okay. I mean, that's what you wanted. And, sometimes you go to a ball game and you're hoping to see like the great home run hitter, hit one over the roof, and it doesn't happen. And, that's what happened. You didn't get these incredible plays, and he tried. It's not like they didn't. The first play of the game, it looked like they were going to throw a bomb. To, I think, my surprise, we were arguing about that earlier in the week. I thought Michigan for sure would be, no, they're going to run the ball. They look like they're set back to throw a bomb, and they called it a sack on the field. So sacked for the first play, and there were a few possessions like that for Underwood where they underwhelming. Snap was low, and he was kind of fumbling around on the ground, or he threw a ball and it just wasn't on the money. I think about the one pass, there was a home run. It was a 40 or 50 yard pass, air yards. He had Shannon Goodwin, who had beat his defender by a couple of yards. I'll say 3 or 4 yards. And he's into the end zone, and a nice pass scores that. I mean, and it's exactly what everybody wanted to see. And he overshot him by, 5 or 6 yards. There was another one, and I can't wait to see it, to Browder down they were going from, you're looking from the press box right to left, and he threw the ball down the right sideline. And I don't know about the route, and I don't know about the ball. The ball looked like, that it should have been a little bit more loft in it, and he should have put it on him a little bit more. They didn't show a replay, so it was just a one time, and I didn't think it was great. There was a couple times down in the end zone, in the red zone, where he threw one to Marsh, and it was just a little bit off. And it was the same thing with Browder. Maybe you credit the defensive back, but nothing like spectacular down there. So, my takeaway from Underwood, and then, he threw a pick, and I don't know if it was a bad route. I don't know if he was feeling the pressure, or it was just a bad pass. It might have been all three of those. He might have been feeling the pressure. It looked like he was a little bit, but he forced a ball over the middle, and the wide receiver was nowhere to be found. It was the defensive back that was right there. He was the only one that was going to catch it. It was Tevis Metcalf who ended up making the pick. And, to me, and without knowing everything there, that looked like a bad pass. And again, I don't know. It could have been all three of those. And even if it was a bad route, and it was such a bad route, the wide receiver wasn't, 10 yards from the ball. If he did run the right route, would he have been able to get up and knock the ball down? I don't know. But so the overall takeaway for me from Underwood, big kid, strong arm. There was one time when he sifted in between traffic and made a nice 17-yard run. You could see the nice feet. You could see the speed, the athletic ability. That was nice. And those are things that we thought that he had. And if you had watched him in high school, or if you have watched the tape, you knew that he had. And, but to see it live, that was, to me, the best play that he made today was his 17-yard scamper, that he just looked smooth running the ball and picking up that first down. As far as the throws, he hit a lot of underneath throws. It looked like there was a lot of cushion that they were giving him, and he was, throwing those 15-yard quick release, nice throw. I'm not taking anything away from him. Boom. I'm just saying overall, it wasn't this it wasn't fireworks. It wasn't, if you didn't know that he was supposed to be otherworldly, the chosen one, the greatest of all time, the highest paid player ever. If you didn't know all that and you watch him, you'd say, hey, kid has a strong arm, but he can't really throw the ball down the field. Now, hey, let's not, and all of us, I say us, that watch football, we're so programmed to overreact on everything. Everybody demands it. It's overreaction Monday. This is overreaction on a spring game. So to try to put it in context, it's a spring game. It's a practice. And it doesn't mean everything in the world. It doesn't mean that I am down on Bryce Underwood or he sucks or any of that. He's got a lot to work with the receivers. He's got a lot to work with his talent. He is going to be helped out. He's good. He's big. He's agile, and he's got a strong arm. He needs experience, and he's going to need a lot of help from his line and his running game, like all quarterbacks. But he's going to get a lot better at being 17 years old. When he turns 18 in mid-August, I think he's going to be better than he is right now on, April the 19th. And then I think he'll get a lot better once he actually plays in a game against New Mexico and plays in those non-conference games and then plays in the Big Ten regular season. I mean, he's going to be a lot better. So that's my thoughts on him. Quickly, my thoughts on Bryce Underwood. You saw the size and the arm and the footwork. He just didn't wow or dazzle you with any big plays downfield. Now, the defense I thought was spectacular. You could see that they were a problem. They were a problem for the offense, and they were coming with a lot of different players making individual plays. You could see the strength, the agility, the athleticism. So the depth was on display, especially at edge. And some of these guys in the interior getting Payne made a play. And you could see even all the way down, Polly, Bagel. I mean, these guys, they've got a lot of this defensive line is good, and it's the strength of their team. And I'm reminded, and I'll remind you, Rod Moore is expected to come back with this team. So you got Rod Moore, you got Derek Moore, you got Guy, you got Brandt, you got Nichols, who had a fabulous game. Sullivan, you could see him in there rushing the passer. Houseman, who I talked with after the game, Barham, and he's the NOB, Boateng. I could see him. He looks pretty athletic. He can run. He looked almost more like a safety than he did a linebacker. And Shamari Earls, one of my favorite players in this freshman recruiting class, wearing that number 2. Boy, he really looks the part. He's big. He's long. He was out there in some pass coverage, and it was a little bit of a mixed bag. What I liked from him, I saw on consecutive plays. He can really come up and play the run. He was diving down, stopping the run. Another time he came up, swatted the guy's feet from under him. So he looks the part, and he can tackle. So that was good to see from number 2, Shamari Earls. And then if there was, you say negative, some people don't, want to hear anything negative, or was there anything that was bad? So, turn away if you don't want to hear any of that. Jaden Davis had a poor day. He has a long windup, which we all know, but if you're going to have that long windup, you got to have some zip on your passes. And, he didn't. He threw a pick he stared down his receiver, and then he threw a long pass that you could see coming from a million miles away, and it got intercepted. And then he threw repeated balls over the middle, a little pop flies in the coverage. It was I know they talked about him getting better and everything this spring, but he's got a long way to go. In his defense, one pass, he made a nice pass that he looked like he did have some pace on, and it was a big-time throw down the right sideline, like 20 or 30 air yards, put it right on. Earls was right in the back pocket of O'Leary, who put his hands out. He hit O'Leary in the hands, and O'Leary dropped it. So, that sucked for Davis, who, he showed a little bit more speed maybe than I thought he had, but I did not like his overall game passing the ball. It was a disappointment. Now, the wide receivers that, everybody was excited to see, myself included, a Browder and Marsh. Marsh, well, Marsh was looking the part for me, and he caught some of those underneath passes and turned and went upfield. That was, there was a little bit of excitement there. But, Browder, they put the ball on him twice, and one time was in the end zone. I'd like to really break that one down and look. Was it just the defender making the play? Was he going up? Should the pass have been a little bit higher? I think so. I want to see that one. And then there was one down the right sideline. That's the other one that I talked about earlier that I really wanted to see again. I thought that I don't know if it was the right route, the precise route, and I don't think there was enough air under the ball, even though it was a bomb. But I just didn't like the placement there. But again, I would have to see that one again. So Marsh, while they looked for him and targeted him, we just didn't see that part. So those are my thoughts. I throwing the ball to, and Chip Lindsey, maybe we'll be able to get this, but there was a pass to a Taylor, who's the special teams demon for Michigan, Joe Taylor, that Underwood. It was a real nice pass, and it could have gone for a touchdown. Taylor's 5'9", and when you're putting the ball in the end zone on that little 10-yard, and you have the defender on you, you need a bigger receiver. You need a tight end or somebody that can get in there and use his size. And, they're throwing that ball to Taylor. I don't like that. And another time, Samaj Morgan does a lot of good things. He's very talented. But, throwing him a back shoulder 30 yards down the field, and he's 5'9", 10, and, this didn't make a lot of sense to me. I know there's other receivers and they've been that height, but that doesn't seem like it's his game. I'm questioning that when it comes down. I'd like to talk about Lindsey. Like, why are you put him in the best position to succeed? I didn't think they did that when it came down with Samaj. I already mentioned Marsh and Owasso Boateng, Nathaniel, 6'1", 203. He looks like he could play safety. He could really move. Shannon Goodwin was out there and was open a few times. The one that could have been the play of the game where he had his defender beat, but Underwood couldn't put the ball on him. Jordan Young, right off the bat, big key third down. He looks like he is a player. He's a defensive back out of North Carolina. Liked what I saw from the young man. Houseman. Houseman's one of those guys, you're familiar with him. He's a good player. He might be a very good player. He's a great story. He's the captain of the defense. He's wearing the green dot. He's the quarterback of the defense, and he's a hell of a football player. And you could see him making some plays. They got the running backs out of there pretty quick today. Both Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. We know what Marshall can do. We know a little bit what Haynes. Haynes had one play, a big jump cut out to the left, and he took off down the field. You can see a lot of that. Good footwork from the big fellow Haynes out of Buford, Georgia. Nice 1-2 punch, Michigan, with their running game. Jeremiah Lowe out of Kentucky made a play. Saw him out there. Dom Nichols may have been the MVP for the blue team, who shut out the Maize team. He was a problem. They had a hard time blocking him, and when they were able to block him, he was able to run downfield and make some plays. So 33 in your program, Dom Nichols, he's going to be a factor at edge for Michigan. Damon Payne, the transfer, he's from Belleville, a transfer from Alabama, big 44. I liked what I saw from him in there. I already mentioned Jamar Browder. Lugbard Ekpaye, I hadn't been pronouncing his name right, and he's rangy, 6'7", 240. He caught my eye enough where I put a little tick next to his name. Trey Pierce, a big fella as well. The other side, Donovan McCulley made one. If you're looking for the wide receiver that made one play, it was a 50-50 ball that they threw over to him. It was Jaden Davis, and you saw McCulley use his size and made the 50-50 catch. That was nice. Tevis Metcalf picked off Bryce Underwood. He was fired up. That was good to see. I thought on the negative side, I thought the one time I was looking at the line, I thought, okay, who was that? That was 76 that got beat there. And then somebody next to me in the press box said he had been having had been beat repeatedly. Not that I had noticed that, but somebody next to me had said that. And I saw Connor Jones get beat the one time. I don't know if that's something that's happened all spring, but that's what I saw. And then O'Leary with the drop catch, not his finest performance. But overall, Michigan with the win. Michigan with the spring game, and it goes off. No injuries that I saw, and that's always a positive. And then everybody having a good time. Thanks for people that stopped by. Saw a number of people stopping by over there to meet us at 11:15. It was raining at that point right there, so it wasn't the greatest weather for a meet and greet, but we did meet some folks. And then what else? Jordan Marshall afterwards, he was talking just how good he thinks that he talked about how physical the Michigan defense has been from what he's a great talker, and what you saw today, you could see that maybe what he's saying, you could believe. Very physical, tough hitting, talkative defense, according to Jordan Marshall. And all those guys said, hey, the quarterbacks really didn't make any splash plays today. Most of them stood up and said, yeah, but they were during the rest of the spring. Even though they didn't have those wow plays, they were making some of those in spring. So, you take that stuff with a grain of salt when you hear it. So we'll see on that. They got a lot to work on. They got a lot of pieces and a lot of ingredients. And Chef Sharon, we'll see what he's able to do. He was only committed to a couple players on the offensive line, starting Sprague, who looks like he's grown into that big frame at right tackle. El Hadi, who can play better at left guard, and then Crippen. But so right guard and left tackle are up in the air. We know that they're looking in the transfer portal at a left tackle, and who knows? I mean, you got Brady Norton, you got the other kid coming in from Ferris, Hattar, and who knows what they'll do with the transfer portal. So a lineman, Michael K. Pana, got a lot of play today, and nothing that really wowed you. But you are talking about a third back, running back number 3, maybe that they would look to someone else. You probably like saying, hey, are you burying the lead? You had a kid who was the MVP of the game, who ended up having an 88-yard touchdown at the end of the game. That was 42 Jalen Hoffman, who, give the kid credit, 6'3", 235. They went with a reverse flea flicker, and he caught like a 20, 30-yard pass and then took it the rest of the way. So 88-yard touchdowns, and 88-yard touchdown for the last play of the game. And also someone that might not have been on your radar was that running back that Bryson Cudsall out of Ada, Michigan. Bryson Cudsall. Maybe he could be running back through. I mean, he looked good. Again, that's a spring game. You're talking about Bryson Cudsall and Jalen Hoffman. I'd never heard of either of those guys today, but Hoffman was the MVP, and Cudsall, if somebody said, hey, this is a kid that was a 4-star running back out of Ada, rather than some walk-on that nobody had ever heard of, you'd say, oh, this guy, he flashed. He did flash as a walk-on. So I don't know if he ends up working into the mix or not at running back 3. I do see some feedbacks. If anybody else had any thoughts here before I get ready for some playoffs. Playoffs. Oh yeah. Michigan Go Blue 1234 says our wide receiver room is not it. Well, you got to have the quarterbacks throwing it to them too. So I think they're going to have a lot of work. I think the they got to marry up the routes and the quarterbacks, and what we say, get on the same page. But that's going to be, I think, the focus of the summer phase. If you're asking me what's the number one focus of the summer phase, and you could go through so many things, I would say just working with the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, and getting on the same page. The routes, the passes, it wasn't all perfect, and you'll see the tape of these throws from Underwood. You'll say, oh, you were being too hard on him. It was these receivers, and you could be right on that, but it wasn't precise. And look, it's the spring, so it wasn't as, it's not game ready. They definitely have some work to do, and I'm with you on that. So if we're coming up and, everybody, these are my 3 takeaways. These are getting the wide receivers working with the quarterbacks. That would be something that would have to happen. A New Life talking about he made some great throws that were dropped. You mean Jaden Davis, he had one that was dropped by O'Leary. I have to look. I mean, if you're talking about down in the end zone, it looked like I'm not sure, but maybe you were there and had a better look. You could be right. New Life. OT making this point that JJ couldn't hit the deep ball until he could. Underwood is 17. He'll be fine. It's a great point. What a great point. JJ, it wasn't to the end of his sophomore season at Ohio State that he didn't, start connecting on the deep ball. Now, against Illinois in 22, that last home game, Andrew Anthony was down there, could have bailed him out, and then you can say, oh, he hit but he didn't. He didn't hit any. So it's a very good point about Underwood being 17 and not connecting on the deep passes. Good job, OT. Yep, Haynes looked nice. Yeah, the throws in the flat from Underwood. He was zipping some the passes. It was the underneath stuff. And look, to be fair, this is the tough part. Alex Orji was throwing that pass last year, and it's like, oh, hey, that's pretty nice. But 15-yard outs are not why you get 15 million or whatever he's getting, 10, 12, 15 million. And I know he's 17, so I'm gonna have to keep reminding myself, just 17. It's gonna be a work in progress. I'm the one that was saying that I didn't think that. I don't need to yell. I don't know why I was getting a little excited that he's going to get a lot better by the opener, and then as he's going in the middle of the season. So, yeah. So that's true. Michael kind of, hey, it's a spring game. It's kind of let's calm down on it. This is still a part of just practice. It was a practice. You're right. All that is good stuff. I just wanted to come out and give a couple thoughts here on immediately following the game. Be interesting to see what everyone else has to say. The 50,000 that were there, and then the assembled media and everything that they have to say about it, and how they look over it. And then when you get a chance to watch the game on not tomorrow, but next Sunday, when the game will debut on the Big Ten Network, and we can do it all over again. Jim Scarcelli, I spoke with him. He was at the game. I didn't see him, although he did call me during the game. I thought he was at home. Like, yeah, Scar, not right now. So Scar will be able to bring it on Monday and give his thoughts. And then Jerry D'Ario was there, and I did see him. He stopped by over on Stadium in Maine, and we took another photo 2 years in a row, me and Jerry getting together for a picture. So, and some others as well. So that was fun. So wrap it up in 1 minute. The Michigan spring game 2025. Underwood, big, strong, agile, and he's got some work to do with his receivers, and you can see the talent. But it wasn't a one of those things where it was you were bowled over with the talent, and you're just like, oh man, this guy is so ready-made as an All-American, and maybe we should have expected that. So that was my thought on Underwood. There's no way to sugarcoat it when it comes down to Jaden Davis. He had a bad day. And then, Mikey Keene, I think that he's a big winner out of this because, Davis and then wherever Underwood, I still would say if you had to say, who do you think is going to start, the opener would be Bryce Underwood. But, Sharon after the game mentioned Keene and how many snaps he's taken and how it's like when he's in the quarterback room, like having another coach there. And he said he didn't really need this spring and he's going to be just fine. So at the very least, you think maybe pushing Bryce Underwood, which would be good news. But I think he's a big winner. Big winner in that a week ago at this time, I didn't think he was practicing and I thought he was hurt. And you're thinking, hell, is this guy even going to be around or is he going to hit the transfer portal next week? So now he was back throwing and they didn't want to push him into a last practice or two. So, they held him out, but, he could be a factor come fall if, he plays better than Underwood. I'm still, like I said, I would predict that it would project if I was doing a two deep right now as Underwood as the starter, but I would move up Keene and put him in place of Jaden Davis. Strong performance by the defense, especially that defensive line, and especially the front seven. I like the linebackers and the edges. You could really see the talent there. So that's it. And that's my overall thoughts on it. And now we'll wait until New Mexico on August the 30th to see how much better they're able to get. We will be talking about all of the things that I had to say today and that you saw all week long. And then we'll see the game and then we'll get a round of everybody being able to talk about it again. So in that regard, it's kind of fun that, we like talking about Michigan football and we were able to see so much of it today. And then we will get a lot of people that will be able to see what I've been talking about and everybody else is writing about and talking about as well next week. So a good 2 weeks of spring game. And then, as we have done in the past, Jim Scarcelli and Jerry D'Irio have taken that tape and they break it down. And then the 100 things that I have not talked about that I didn't see that the players that and the coaches will want to point out, they'll point out. And that's a lot of fun to do as well. So thanks so much. More information and much more over on the Maize and Blue Review. You can get instant access. There were hundreds of recruits there. I say hundreds. I don't know if there was a lot. Let's see. Can I play? Oh, it said don't play any video. So I guess I better not play any of the video. So I won't. I did say, let's say we'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review right now. Go to michigan.rivals.com and we'll see you coming up on Monday at 2:00. I'm off to watch some playoffs all night long. It's going to be a great time. So this is a great time of year. Thanks so much for watching and everybody have a great day. So long.